records were made and broken. Africa was impressive, but Team Nigeria made a loud statement.
The gold medal.
Star girl Toby Amuson continued her fine form from the World Championships. Amuson ran a new games record of 12.30 seconds to win gold.
You know, it's been good. My coach and my support system, they've kept me grounded, and once I'm healthy, it's just, the rest is history.
Miss Consistent Ace Brume also produced a record-breaking performance.
So happy, you know, for Toby Amusan. Before I came here, I tapped from her grace, and I prayed, and I said that God, you, the same God that gave it to Toby, the same God also is going to do it for me, and we'll together celebrate. And here I am today. Here we are today, celebrating together.
Atmosphere is filled with so much energy and excitement, and the people are willing to do some more. So we're looking forward to see how this progresses.
Go lo, let me see. Go lo, bugao.
From powerlifting to weightlifting, back to track and field, Team Nigeria were phenomenal.
When I came here yesterday saying we're going to win this, I wasn't playing because I know we all have what it takes to win, and I'm not sure we did it, and I know you guys saw it. Not just breaking the record, but also passing the message, like I said before, and yeah, we got it done.
I'll keep it next to my face. I won't kiss it down. Next year we have Worlds in Hungary, so I'm hoping to make my third world team and then also make the finals and be able to showcase my talent and get a medal as well. I think it would be, I don't know, the last time a Nigerian or even an African kind of medal for women's discus in the world stage. So I'm hoping to do that and have that push me forward for the Paris Olympics.
Team Nigeria, brilliant. We saw them in the opening ceremony and we were cheering them on, so yeah, brilliant.
I've been supporting Team Nigeria, believe it or not. Nigeria and Pakistan, two teams I've been supporting. And yeah, I've been watching them closely. And I think they've done a good job this Commonwealth Games, I would say so.
Lights, fireworks. It's a wrap on the 2022 Commonwealth Games. It was a record-breaking performance for Team Nigeria, but some problems were also exposed. The country must find ways to solve those problems and consolidate on this sort of performance. From the Alexander Stadium in Birmingham, Austin Okonakpan, Channels Television News.
Well, yes, Tony Ibitoye, press attaché, the Team Nigeria for Birmingham 2022, joins us next to give us some scenarios that played out whilst there. Good morning, Tony. Thank you for joining us on the program today, and good to see you. Now, well, clearly, our best performance since our debut in 1950. And, wow, what a scenario. We saw, at least from what was going on, but you were right there behind the scenes. What was the experience and the narratives that went on behind these great feats that Team Nigeria achieved?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chamberlain, and the other guys for the opportunity to be on Sunrise Daily. I've missed being on this show for a while, but I'm happy to be here and to be on this show. So thank you for the opportunity you've given me to be here. Yeah, you said it all. Birmingham 2022 was an outstanding performance for Nigeria. Team Nigeria broke all the records, set new records, achieved such incredible performances, and for a long time, this is going to be the talk of the town. You know, it's really remarkable. And I think it's a combination of factors that have led us into being able to do what we were able to achieve in Birmingham. The athletes were fantastic, they were disciplined, they were very focused, they worked hard, and of course, we would also have to give a lot of credit to Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari, because his intervention allowed us in the first place to be at the Commonwealth Games. If not for the presidential intervention, we probably wouldn't have the funds to be able to go to the Commonwealth Games. And what an investment it has turned out to be, because if we had not gone, we would have missed out on what we achieved, the best performance ever. So on all sides, from the federal government to the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports, to the Nigeria Olympic Committee, to the sports federations that participated at the Commonwealth Games, to the athletes themselves, they gave everything. And that's why we have such brilliant results to show.
So what sticks out for you in terms of the training regimen of these players, and who contributed what, and how did we approach it?
Yeah, you know, for the first time in a long while, we had to rely on a lot of data to be able to pick the 9 sports that eventually went for the Commonwealth Games. We went with just 9 sports, and the reason why we went with 9 sports was because there was a lot of work by the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports through the federations and elite athletes department, the FIT department, in finding out exactly where our areas of strengths were. And so we settled on 9 sports, and it will interest you that out of those 9 sports, we had medals in 7 of them, and we got to the semifinals in the other 2 where we eventually didn't get medals. That's table tennis and judo. We had athletes who got up to the semifinals and lost out in the bronze medal game. So it was so close, we probably would have had all 9 sports having medals. And of course, the planning was in stages. There was a session for open camping for the athletes who were based at home. And then they had competitions. The wrestlers, for example, the boxers, for example, had a lot of competitions. And so they had an open campaign. And then close to the games, we had what we call a closed campaign, where all the athletes going for the competition will be together and then put finishing touches to their preparation. So it was a combination of all of these, knowing our areas of strength, picking those sports where we had the advantage, those 9 sports, athletics, boxing, judo, wrestling, weightlifting, table tennis, para-athletics, para-powerlifting, and para-table tennis. Those 9 sports that we went there to the Commonwealth Games with turned out to be a massive success for us. The weightlifting was amazing. The wrestling, we were picking up the gold medals and the medals left, right, and center. The same thing with powerlifting. You know, so it was a combination of a lot of work behind the scene by the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports in identifying those 9 sports, identifying the top athletes who are in the top 10 in the world, and then getting them to be adequately prepared to go to the Commonwealth Games and then achieving this kind of results. It would amaze you that we went with one of the smallest contingents in recent times, and this small number of athletes have eventually turned out for us into producing our best performance ever in the history of the Commonwealth Games. So I think it's a combination of factors, from Mr. President giving his intervention, and then the Ministry of Youth and Sports, the Nigeria Olympic Committee, and the sports federations that went to the Olympics, working together, being on the same page and achieving these amazing results.
Well, whether or not we can make this small contingent that you talked about a template for future performances or participation, well, I guess we'll see over time. But, you know, no achievements comes without its own challenges. Are there things that, you know, we could have done better? Of course, we always say, you know, there's always a room for improvement. Our reporter was saying the other time that, look, there were some problems. And there are some that you want to talk to us about, and which people or agencies or individuals that you think need some talking to or some amendments or adjustments in their operations so we can have better performances going forward?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can always do better. There will always be opportunities, and you will always review your performances. Yes, we are celebrating that this is the best performance ever, but could it have been better? Definitely could have been better. We could have had probably better funding. I talked about Mr. President taking a big share of the praise for what we achieved, because it was his intervention that helped us to participate. They didn't have the funds, but Mr. President intervened and provided the funds that eventually saw Team Nigeria to the Commonwealth Games. So the first person that we should praise and commend for what we achieved in Birmingham is Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari, for his intervention. We could always do with better funding, and that's what the Honorable Minister, Sunday Dare, and the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports has been trying to preach, that, look, a time is coming, and it's obvious that government alone cannot continue to fund and provide all the resources for sports. So we need to get the private sector involved. And I hope that before he leaves office, the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports will be able to bring into operation the National Sports Industry Policy, which provides an opportunity for private sector funding for our sports, because we can always do with more funding. We could also do with better communication between our federations and the international bodies, follow up very closely on what the changes are in terms of the rules of competition, because the interesting thing about sports is that the rules are changing every day. So you need to keep abreast. We need to do a lot more in terms of training our coaches, in terms of training our officials to be able to respond to the changes that are going on globally. Because if, with what we've been able to achieve, we are still there, keeping abreast with what's going on, you can imagine what more we'll be able to do. So for me, these are some of the areas that we need to work on, the areas of funding, the areas of being able to keep ourselves abreast with changes, with the new rules, and then upgrade our coaches, our administrators to be able to respond to the changes in sports. These are some of the things that I believe if we work on, we'll be able to achieve greater success. Because not just now that we've done well at the Commonwealth Games, we have to build on this momentum going forward. Next year, we have the African Games. In 2024, we'll have the Olympic Games in Paris. So there are competitions coming in quick and fast. The Toby Amusons of this world, the Ace Brumers of this world are at the top at the moment. But you and I know that getting to the top is tough. Staying at the top is tougher. So we have to ensure that we put all the resources available to these athletes and ensure that we are able to keep them at the very top going into future competitions. We can be happy with what we achieved in Birmingham. We are right now at the top, but we have to do a lot more work now to stay at the top going forward.
Well, I think that also raises a very, very interesting thing. The first thing you talked about, the sports industry bill, fantastic. But everyone is in business to make money. With the stranglehold of government, if you're asking the private sector to come in, great. But with the stranglehold of government, influence of government, and unpredictability sometimes, if I dare say, of some government policies and all, how safe will it be? How cordoned off, how protected, how insured will an investor's investment be in sports if they are not sure of what will happen should a government policy torpedo just because they put their money into the business?
Well, that's a challenge. That's a challenge that I hope we can overcome. And all of these issues that you have mentioned are also factored into the sports industry policy. We have to be able to provide incentives for those who will want to invest in sports. We have to be able to give them, as the minister will call it, tax holidays. We have to be able to provide infrastructure. We should invest in infrastructure. We should provide an environment that will make them to thrive, because clearly it's obvious to everyone that we have to change the way things operate. Government is carrying a lot already, and they just cannot continue to carry everything. We have to find a way to encourage the private sector to come in. So it's in our own interest that this sports industry policy comes into force. Right now, it is almost at the final stage because it has gone through a lot of processes, fine-tuning and all of that, so that at the end of the day, the private sector operatives, the private sector will be able to look at the document and see what it offers them, what kind of protection, as you said, it offers them, and encourages them to also come on board. Because, as you said, you are absolutely right in the fact that you are in business to make profit, you are in business to make money, and you identify with what the entirety of Nigerians will love to be involved in. And for me, that's sports. Sports cuts across ethnic divide. You don't think about where the gold medalist is coming from. You are not bothered about his or her religion. You are just interested in this athlete going on to win for Nigeria and put smiles on our faces. So we have to be able to protect those who are going to be investing in sports, provide them with what they need to get involved, and then see how it goes. Of course, as we go on and as we try, we will see new problems. We'll keep solving those problems and putting those structures in place until we are able to have a document that is near perfect. I don't know if there's any perfect document anywhere in the world, but we can move as quickly as we can to having something as near perfect as possible.
And you know, Mr. Ibitoye, you also talked about the athletes, you know, being the smallest team that you've taken to the World Athletics Championship and the Commonwealth Games. You know, so even in your narrative, I can tell that you're only being optimistic. You're saying we have to be able to see to it that private sector investment is protected. But do you see that attitude in all these agencies that are in charge of building up these teams, the attitude that this document requires for implementation, such that when you're going next to, you know, another championship, you have a more expanded team and more chances for this harvest of medals that we have seen?
Yeah, yes, I'm being optimistic, but I'm also confident that if we continue with some of the programs and initiatives that are already in place, and we are able to sustain them, of course, you know, hope that when this administration is gone, the next one coming in can follow through those programs, then I have hope that we'll be able to achieve a lot more. And one of the reasons why I said this is because of some of the programs already in place. The Adopt initiative for Ese Brume, for Tobi Amusan, for Blessing Oborodudu. You saw Blessing, you saw Ese winning medals at the Olympics. Yes, they were already established athletes before the Adopt initiative. But you know, when an athlete is an elite athlete, he also needs a lot of support structure around him or her for training, to go for competition and all of that. And that was what the Adopt initiative offered some of these athletes. It was a program that was brought about by Sunday Dare, the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports. And Tobi Amusan was adopted by the Ogun State government, Ese Brume by the Delta State government, and a lot of other corporate players adopted individual athletes and provided funding for their trainings, for their competitions, for their coaches, which, I mean, played some role in helping them to get prepared for this sort of competition. Going forward, sports federations have a lot to do in terms of identifying their elite athletes. And then, as I said, we also have to find a way to get support for these elite athletes to go for competitions. Let me give you an example. The weightlifters that were picking medals freely at the Commonwealth Games had gone for a lot of competitions. The wrestlers are going for another competition in a few weeks from now. So they have to consistently go for competitions like this, and there must be support structure of funding to ensure that they're able to go for this kind of competitions on a regular basis. And when you go for competitions and you meet some of the best athletes in the world, you are able to gauge your level and know what you need to do to be at the same level with some of these best athletes in the world. And when you are able to do that, then you are in the game. Because when it comes to the top athletes in the world, sometimes the difference between a gold medal and a silver medal is so small, little attention to details will make a lot of difference. And that's what we have to provide for our athletes so that they can continue to compete at the highest level.
You know, it's good to see that we chose our strength in those games, and we went there and did a lot better ever since our debut in Auckland. But what are we doing about other games, other sports? So, I mean, unfortunately, squash couldn't get anything from there because you can't even get a good old place to go and play squash peacefully in this country. You know, Lions private facility that is top-notch, world-class, like glass courts and things like that. But that's an aside. You know how I like to talk about some of those. But are we looking towards saying, yes, we're good here, and we hope to keep improving, but the other games that were not right there, because when we go for the African Games, those games will feature. what template are we trying to adopt, or do we consider for those of the games?
I know, Chamberlain, I know you're a lover of squash, and I know you sponsor a lot of squash tournaments, so let me encourage you to keep supporting squash and sponsoring squash. Perhaps someone will come out one day and be able to compete at the highest level. There were some other sports that wanted to be part of the Commonwealth Games because they are also top-ranking sports in Africa and somehow around the top bracket in the world. Swimming, for example, had a few swimmers who are also trying to break into the top level. We also have badminton, where we have a lot of African champions who wanted to break in, and some other countries that even had less talented athletes were still able to turn up for the Commonwealth Games. We have a lot of other sports where the federations are doing so much, their presidents are doing so much. You have hockey as well as doing a lot, and a whole lot of other sports doing well. The challenge, as we've always identified, is we must be able to provide a conducive environment for these sports in terms of funding them to go for competitions. The hockey national team went for a competition not too long ago. Volleyball also the same. We have to be able to provide infrastructure. It is key for us to be able to provide infrastructure. Chamberlain, I have some good news for you. In Edo State, there are some fantastic world-class squash facilities that the Edo State government provided and were used for the National Sports Festival the last time. So we have to begin to make use of these facilities, discover talent from early on in their lives, expose them, and then you never know. You never know. What God does is that He puts talents in people, in personalities. What we have to do as a government, as a ministry, the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports, is to provide an environment where those talents can be discovered and exposed, and those athletes can then compete at the highest level. That's the challenge for us. But we have to keep trying. Yeah. We have to keep working hard. We have to keep encouraging these federations to keep pushing. And I believe one day they will become like the weightlifting, the wrestling, the powerlifting,
you know,
that got us medals at the Commonwealth Games.
Speaking about wrestling, you know, it was high hopes. Yes, we got some medals, but look at Canada, for instance. They've been the best performing teams in this kind of games for a long time. And I know that Daniel Degali was back home doing a lot of training and things like that. What kind of impact did we get from all of that? Are we looking to say, look, what is Canada doing that we need to learn or topple?
Daniel Degali is an Olympic champion, you know, so he knows what it takes to produce champions. So I think we need to give him a lot of kudos. Other federations like weightlifting also, we need to give them a lot of kudos. Boxing. I was surprised with boxing, for example, because I never knew we could get a lot of our athletes into medal positions in boxing, but they did well. I think Daniel Degali and those federations have given us a template on what to do. And the challenge for us is that the likes of Odunayo Adekuroye, Blessing Oboro Dudu, Mercy Genesis, who got us a lot of these medals, we now have to start to discover and find replacements for them from the young ones. Bayelsa has become like the home of wrestling because that was where our athletes camped for the Commonwealth Games, and that's where they always camp before they go for international competitions. And we have to look at the areas of strength. Bayelsa, for example, for wrestling, Delta State for athletics, you know, Lagos State for boxing. Begin to look at the comparative advantage of all of these things and bring them to play so that we can begin to discover young athletes who will take over from some of these established ones who have done Nigeria proud for so many years. One day they will have to stop. And so when they stop, there shouldn't be any gap. We should get some other ones coming to fill in immediately.
You do that segmentation you just analyzed now for the economy as well. But I can't but mention this one, Mr. Ibitoye. It would seem like you had more women winning gold than men. I'm sorry, I just have to go there. I mean, it's a cheering thing, right? I mean, that happens. We've been advocating for, you know, women empowerment and all of those things. But Is there something of concern there? If there was a balance, there wouldn't be an issue. But 29 women performed at this event, and almost all the women who, won gold. I mean, almost all the gold came only from the women. So is there a reason for that, or is it something that you did in the background that we didn't know about? Is there a reason for that? I'm just saying.
I think for me, the summary is that we have to appreciate our women a lot more. The women are the carriers of the nation. So we have to give them all the kudos for what they were able to achieve at the Commonwealth Games. But let's not forget as well that there were moments in our sports when the men carried us. So it's now the time for the women to do the same, and they are doing it so brilliantly. The women were amazing. But let's not push away the men. They gave their best as well. Perhaps the competition is a little tougher on the side of the men. They have to play a lot more qualifying games, unlike the women. But there was a time that the men carried the nation. Now, the women are carrying the nation. And for me, the combination of the men and the women is what made Team Nigeria. Yes, we appreciate our women. We really must commend them for what they were able to achieve. But at the same time, let's not forget that there was a time that the men carried us. And I believe that very soon, both the men and the women will still be able to lift us to greater heights.
Yeah, and if you look at that graph, the performance of Team Nigeria at the Commonwealth Games right from Auckland, where, how many did we get in Auckland? 0. Oh dear, in 1950 we got nothing. But then here we are in Birmingham with, wow, look at that, the highest of them all, 12 of them. So that is indeed a very, very good one for Team Nigeria. And I guess we'll have to go back and revisit the federations, look at the templates. I think it's only natural for them to say, you know what, we have to allow a lot more women to head those federations and ensure that we'll mix it up. I mean, if for a long time we had the men give us glory, now the women are giving glory, it's only natural for some of the men to back off and let those opportunities come through so we can just have a little mix all over the place. After all, we call it what? Team Nigeria. But Ibitoye, we have to thank you for coming on today and for the good work. Everyone who is involved in this goal, we really have good works for you. Thank you very much, Ibitoye, and all the best.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, Channels TV, my home station, and everyone for the support you also gave us. Austin was fantastic in Birmingham as well. We were moving everywhere together, and I'm enjoying all the reports that I'm seeing on Channels TV. So thank you for the opportunity.
And there's more to come, by the way, so keep it locked here.